Thank you for attending the 2023 Minnesota Twins Internship Seminar. So to start things off, I'll let you know that we are currently accepting applications for our 2023 internships. You can find all of our positions out on twinsbaseball.com/job opportunities. I will pop a link in the chat for everybody here. So that way you can go out there and check out any of the positions that we currently have. And we have a little bit of a unique hiring process that will be coming your way shortly. So after you go ahead and submit an application, those who are qualified after resume screening will be issued a pre-recorded video interview, followed by interviews face-to-face or over Zoom with the hiring managers. And we're hoping to name all of our 2023 interns by Thanksgiving. So if you have any questions about any specific internships, you can pop them in the Q&A box and we can get to that towards the end of the session. Otherwise, if you have any issues or questions, you can always reach out to hrsupport@twinsbaseball.com. And I will also pop that in the chat as well. With that being said, I'll hand it over to Andrew Halverson, who is our Director of Broadcast, to kick things off, and we'll get Madeline Straley on here shortly as well.
All right. Thank you, Emily. My name is Andrew Halverson, Director of Broadcast, as Emily had said. And just wanted to start out by saying our goal in this panel is to share a little bit about what we currently do, but ultimately we want to be transparent about the interview process, the internship, to try and get you a job. So we're going to try and share some of our perspectives of when we go through the process with interns on an annual basis, what we're looking for, the do's and don'ts throughout the process to try and help you either get a position with the Twins or even elsewhere throughout the industry or non-sports industry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the room and introduce the panelists and what their current role is, ask them a question about that. And then I am going to kind of take you through a career path that each one of these talented individuals have done through their career to try and help give you perspective or examples of what made them successful. And then we're going to end, just as Aiden has already chimed in with the chat, with questions from you guys. So if we missed anything or anything along those lines, we'll take questions as well, because we want this to be beneficial and unique to what your questions are. So first, I'm going to introduce Sandra Saselski. She is the Director of Social Responsibility for the Minnesota Timberwolves. She was an intern with the Minnesota Twins in 2014 and has worked her way up the corporate ladder and is now transitioned into the Wolves organization. Sandra, how are you? And tell us a little bit about your new role.
I'm good. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight on this Monday. The new role is good. I am about 40 days in, and kudos to all my learnings from the Twins organization. It's fun. All things community, all things impact, looking to make a difference here within the Twin Cities.
What's kind of been the biggest thing that you've gone into this new opportunity with? I mean, you've worked with the Twins for 7-ish years, new organization. What has been your strategy going in and learning about new priorities for an organization?
Yeah, and I think it's also stemmed from when I was starting as an intern, just being confident in my abilities and eager to learn and not be afraid to not know it all, but to be able to ask questions. You know, that's what I'm coming into within this new organization, and something I feel like I've been doing ever since I started as an intern and growing within my career is eager to learn, being confident within myself, and just continue to ask questions.
That's really good advice, and we'll get back to dive deeper into some of that as we move along in the conversation. Next, I'm going to introduce Chelsea Falzone, who was also an intern in 2014. She was a manager of youth engagement in our community department. Chelsea, how are you? And tell us a little bit about your career path to get where you are now.
Yeah, thank you, Drew. Good to be here, and thanks everybody for joining us. Yeah, I was an intern back in the day, actually the same year as Sandra here, so we go way back. Had an awesome year. We interned for the Minnesota Twins during the MLB All-Star Game, so that year taught us a whole lot, and I've been with the Twins in a bunch of different capacities, which I think we'll touch on in a little bit. But this organization is very, very important to me, and now I get to help influence kids and families all over Twins territory with the beautiful games of baseball and softball.
Awesome. We have Sadie Keller who's joined with us. And Sadie, first of all, you were part of this panel last year, and I can think of 4 other individuals who not only attended this panel, got an internship, and have gotten a full-time position after their internship. Take us back a year from now, what you were thinking in this panel when you attended it last year.
Yeah, first, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us here. But yeah, last year I was out one of the attendees, and I remember thinking Kobe Allen was on the internship panel, and he was just finishing his intern year. And all I could think about was like, wow, that guy's got it. Like he did it. He did so well. He worked through this internship program, and it was just so impactful to me to hear him and all the other incredible panelists that year. So it was so beneficial to me as an applicant. And now I'm just really happy to be here on the other side as well. Hopefully we'll be able to help our attendees as well.
Absolutely. I might come back to you in a moment. We're going to try Madeline. I see you joining via phone. Are you with us? Maybe not. It is muted. Unless, Emily, you can unmute as a host. All right, Sadie, we'll start with you then. So you go through this panel last year. I guess more or less, what was your approach in the interview process? What did you want to show to the Minnesota Twins when going through that interview process that you could accomplish the job and perform at a high level?
Of course. So I was really fortunate to start working in sports from a very early age. I knew that this is what I wanted to do moving forward. So I think that I personally really wanted to showcase that, my past experiences, everything that I had done to that point. I didn't have all the qualifications for the position, but really trying to tailor what I had done, whether it be in the industry, whether it be, a serving job. There's something that you can pull from all of your past experiences and relay that, those skills that you learn to these internships. So I think that was the biggest thing, just really looking at each responsibility and duty listed on those job postings and tailoring something I had done to that. But also just being yourself, I think, is one of the biggest things. It's a long season. You're going to be like family to the people you're working with. So going through that interview process for these internships, just really show who you are as a person, let your personality shine, and things will work out great for you.
I think that's really good advice. Just being able to take a couple of different examples of successes in your career and being able to kind of massage or manipulate those stories into fitting the responsibilities. How much research did you do on the organization or the people that you were going to interview with prior to the interview? And then was that helpful, or did you use that in the interview process?
I think it's so beneficial to do as much research as you can about the company and about those individuals that you will be speaking with. I actually had done some informational interviews with some of the folks before, so I had that benefit going in. I had already connected with them, already kind of knew them, but I spent, a few hours leading up to in that week, just going through completely like the entire organization. My role specifically has a lot to do with the baseball side, so I made sure I knew the current roster, all of our former alumni, our retired numbers, like everything I could about the Twins themselves, but also knowing more about the entire organization, making sure you're well-rounded in that aspect as well. And then knowing the journey that those that you will be speaking with have taken to get to their position, what they do. Everyone's on LinkedIn, so you can really find that quite easily, I feel. And it just shows that you're taking that initiative and that you are really interested in the position as well.
More from a broader scope, you're finishing up the internship portion with your Minnesota Twins career. Going back into it, what's one thing that you wish you knew before you started that you knew now?
Something that I wish I knew was just how approachable everyone is and how open they are to just ask questions and meet with them. They really want you to succeed here. Every single person I've come in contact with has been my biggest supporter, completely opening to asking any questions, answering them. I've done numerous informational interviews, talking with different folks of different departments, not even just in baseball communications. I spoke with folks with ticketing, marketing, community. I've really just tried to broaden my horizons in that sense. We also had an internship luncheon with members of the senior leadership team, including Dave St. Peter. So going into it, I feel like I was a little hesitant to reach out to folks, a little bit, scared of maybe their titles. But every single person here treats you as an equal, whether you're full-time staff, whether you're an intern, and they truly want to see you succeed. So just go for it, be open, and reach out.
Oh, you can do that. I'm going to pay you a compliment because you do that in your action too. I know that your position traditionally has 2 interns. You basically did the job yourself for the second half of the year. You go about every time I see you, you're doing other jobs that aren't necessarily assigned to you. So you do a good job just going out your way to make sure things are accomplished. What is something that you would, I guess, advice would you tell somebody attending this panel as they go into it?
Going into like the internship?
Yep.
So the biggest piece of advice, and something that I actually did myself that really helped with my transition into the position, is looking at the job postings and trying to better yourself for those like descriptions. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be like ready to do everything like day one on the job. But for example, the baseball communications internship, one of the duties is writing featured stories. If you've never written a featured story before, maybe start crafting those, kind of start thinking about that process. I myself had done so about other teams. I had that experience writing with like football teams or other baseball teams, but I started to craft stories about Byron Buxton or different members of the team. So then you're starting to get in that mindset and you're preparing for yourself for when you do start, you can just be ready to go right away.
That's really good advice. Again, just being adaptable to what could come up in the interview or into the internship. I do believe we have Madeline now, who was an intern in 2017 and is currently an HR specialist for the New York Yankees. Madeline, do we have you?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We got you loud and clear. How are you?
Okay. I am well, just having some difficulty with some connection, but we're figuring it out. So I'll join for phone for now, and then I'll try and join you all later through the video camera. But yes, hi everyone. I'm an HR generalist currently with the Yankees. I was with the Twins for my internship from 2017 to the beginning of 2018. Was very fortunate to spend some time at the commissioner's office, then went to the Kansas City Royals, kind of switched gears, went from a pretty small market team to one of the largest. So I've been in human resources throughout the entirety of those clubs. So I've seen it from a couple different angles, just on how each company, one represents their employees and then their club, and then how they all work together. So it's been really, really interesting. So thanks for having me today.
Madeline, you stole my first question for you. You mentioned all of the organizations that you've worked with, a couple of baseball teams, and even the St. Paul Saints. How would you compare and contrast, I guess, the intern process or the interview process from each organization, and I guess kind of guide some of the folks on the call, what advice you would give them?
Yeah, definitely. So it's funny you bring up the Saints. Yes, I definitely should have mentioned them. When I was working with that team, they were actually still in independent baseball as opposed to being a minor league team now for the Twins, as I hope most people know on this call. That interview process was very, very different. For those who have had the special opportunity to go to a Saints game, you'll know kind of their slogan, it is all about the fun. That interview process was very different. It was a lot of personality type questions, and being in independent baseball, and I'll kind of expand that to minor league baseball, although I haven't necessarily been with a team, it is very much all hands on deck type of aspect. So just kind of making sure that you have the personality to be able to work more maybe in what feels like a facility operations kind of area. I'll say as I started getting a little bit more into kind of professional and major league baseball, it gets a little bit more intimidating, I guess, especially if you are coming out of school, but that's totally understandable. I think with the size of the organization, I think you maybe get to meet quite a few more people in your interview process. So just to know who those people are as the time comes, I think has been really helpful. When interviewing with the New York Yankees, I think that was helpful that I already had some relationships under my belt that I know how to address certain departments or what my work would look like within those people. So for those who are kind of starting out in their career, feel free to start building those relationships because they definitely will serve you further in the future.
100% agree. And I think we're going to hear from Sandra and Chelsea about building relationships and the importance of those. Madeline, as someone who has worked in HR quite a bit, if you could give us a couple do's and don'ts for the interview process.
I would love to. I'll maybe start off with don't, and then I'll end on a more positive note. So for those who are applying, especially when it comes to things like cover letters, or if you have the opportunity to do phone interviews, while I understand you may be a fan for whatever organization you are applying to, please do not market yourself as I'm the #1 super fan. Whatever role or capacity you would be joining the company, we're not hiring you because you're a fan. We want to hire you for your qualifications and what you can contribute in that capacity. Again, I hope you wouldn't apply to a role that you hated the team. That would definitely be a big no. But just do keep that in mind, that you market yourself appropriately and that you will just kind of fulfill all of the job responsibilities that are being asked of you, and then how you can grow within that role for yourself, for the department, for the organization. Maybe I'm trying to think of a good do that someone could carry with them. I guess just kind of make yourself in a similar way of don't do certain things, kind of on the flip side, move forward appropriately. Maybe don't overextend yourself. Definitely don't lie on your resume. Be, accurate of the accomplishments that you've had, but also be able to stand by those. And if someone asks you that, as a manager probably would within a phone interview or an in-person interview, be able to defend that and speak to it at length, because that's, hard work that you've worked to accomplish. So be able to represent yourself well.
That's great advice on the don't. I completely agree with you. I mean, it sounds harsh, but ultimately we're hiring somebody to get a job done. And the amount of people that start their interviews by telling us how big a fan they are is quite shocking. As far as the do's, I think Sadie provided some good context and ideas about preparedness for the organization that you're interviewing for, and kind of curtailing your messaging to fit what the actual job posting is. Madeline, one thing I want to plug this year is that the Twins are offering a relocation stimulus for some of these internships. This is the first time Minnesota Twins have done that, and I've been around this organization for 16 years. For you, like, how rare is that, and how neat is that to see that being offered for people who want to come into the Twin Cities that don't necessarily live here?
I did not know that was the case, and that is quite amazing to hear. For anyone who's listening, who's thinking about applying to this, even if you are out of state, please take advantage of that. That's really incredible. I have heard of it, but maybe to a larger scale. I think what a lot of people don't recognize is we work for these clubs that are really recognizable names, but the teams behind them are fairly smaller. For example, when I was with the Kansas City Royals, at most when I was there were 3 individuals. So the departments are quite small. I think when most people think of these internship programs, and I'll just pull a comparison from New York since I'm here, is that for something like Morgan Stanley, right? It's finance. They have these large intern groups through the summer. They're very robust and they offer a lot. No shade to Morgan Stanley. That's great. With that being said, we don't necessarily have that type of funding, or I haven't heard of a lot of clubs having that much funding to offer things like relocation. So I think that in its own is a pretty rare benefit to find, and that's great that the Twins are offering that. Props to you guys.
Yep, that's a great point too on the size of the organization. We don't even call our interns once they're in from the broadcast department. You are production assistant, because of the amount of impact that you have on our broadcast day to day. We value more than an intern. But yeah, really cool from the Twins HR committee to invest and start a relocation stimulus package for incoming interns. That's pretty cool. We'll move along to Chelsea Falzone, and Chelsea, from your standpoint, you have interviewed interns quite a bit. What do you look for in the interview process?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Drew. I get that question a lot, and I think it's an important one to answer. I think a couple of us have said this already here, but can't stress it enough. Please don't lead with the fact that you're a diehard fan. I think that's cool, but we all are. So that's not really going to set anybody apart necessarily. And if you lead with that, it's sort of, that doesn't tell us anything about your skill set. So just be really, really careful. I think we've got to practice our leads, practice how we interview. I can't say it enough. If you wing school projects, go ahead, but don't wing your interviews, because this might be the one shot that you get. So some things that I look for in particular are some of those personality traits. Like, am I sensing that this person is a person of high character? Do they have integrity? Are they going to be honest in the workplace? Are they going to be kind to people? Am I getting any red flags about who they might be or how they treat people? Those are things that are very, very important to me. And I think that we've heard it that, you can teach skills. And for the positions that I've been in, that's very true. I mean, I haven't been in positions where I'm dealing with like certifications, like I'm not hiring nurses or, I've hired positions where you can certainly teach what is expected of you. But I really care deeply about some of those things that are cultivated in us when we go through our childhood. Who you are as a person is probably the most important thing to me. So I'll stop harping on that. I will say I do care a lot about how you communicate your skill set and what you can offer. I think everybody thinks that they're a hard worker, but I need to know what that means. It's important that we get really good at providing specific examples, because that helps us as the interview really sort of picture you in this environment. I interviewed somebody a couple weeks ago, actually, and they were talking about a series of phone calls that they had made to troubleshoot this problem. And then additionally, how they cleaned up this massive workspace that they were responsible for managing, and how they navigated a busy day. And, they didn't just say that they worked hard throughout the day. They were providing very specific examples to me of things that they were doing, because work is work. You can't just show up to work and say, well, I'm going to work hard today. That's not necessarily enough. You've really got to understand what that means in a workplace, because every job is difficult. So it's important that we can understand how that looks. Like, what are you good at? Let us understand that.
I think that's a great point. And adding that context, my definition of hard work might be different than your definition of hard work, but I think yours and I are pretty aligned, Chelsea, on that front. But that's great, great context there. For you, your career path, you've been in ballpark ops, you've done clinics, you are in the community department. I get a lot of questions about people getting into an organization and then trying to move to another department. What advice would you give to somebody who is kind of interested in navigating their ways through different areas of the organization?
Yeah, this is a tough topic, because I never want to sound hypocritical or make it sound like that's an easy thing to do, even though I've done it. It's not common. Sports are so competitive. It's difficult to get in. It's difficult to necessarily find the exact role that you want, because sometimes you take the opportunity that's given to you. My career, as was mentioned earlier, I started many years ago in a part-time role in community engagement, serving as a youth baseball instructor. And then as an intern, I was in game presentation productions, which is all the fun stuff on the video board, the in-game ceremony, this fun stuff that's happening in the ballpark. And then I was hired on full-time in ballpark operations, there's Madeline, which was completely different than the internship experience that I had. So I had to completely shift my mindset and start thinking about work in a different way. And I had to learn new skills immediately. I didn't have any time to waste because ballpark operations is so busy. It's an absolute grind. And then I'm eventually later got the opportunity to move into a department that I'm in now, the community engagement department, in a different role than the role that I have now. I know my story is quite hard to follow. And now I'm our manager of youth engagement within community engagement. That's not common at all. And I don't take it lightly. None of those positions were given to me. I had to interview and apply for every one of them. And each of them were a very difficult process. I think as humans, we have a tendency to think that the grass is greener on the other side. So we can find qualified candidates everywhere. And who I am, I mean, the organization has always known me. So when I went in to apply for different roles, I really had to sell myself in a way that, you know, I really had to articulate a skill set that maybe I wasn't using in my current role. And I had to really get good at that because it was important that the interviewers understood that I could do the job at hand. So I think first and foremost, I've maintained a good reputation since 2014 when I was an intern. If I would have had any burnt bridges, I wouldn't be where I'm at. It's just not possible. People wouldn't have taken a chance on me. I've had to have our leadership and our ownership group trust me to do the jobs that they've let me to do. And that means a great deal. So, you know, I think I've established some good relationships around the ball club. People have trusted me. They've found me reliable. They've seen that I am who they think I am, and I can do the job. I can be kind. I'm teachable. I'm coachable, and I'm honest about my inexperience. And I think that's really great too. I never went into any of these interviews with different departments saying, "Oh, I know I can do it. I've never done it before." I've been humble enough to admit when I got to learn it, you know, but I wanted it. And I think when you lay it all out on the line, you can't go to bed at night regretting that you didn't give it your all. Give it your all and go after what you want, because you might get it.
It's really good advice. And you know, one thing when you're getting those questions, I've gotten them a month into an internship or position, and that's not really the time to do it. There's a lot that goes into onboarding, and there's a reason why a job was posted. But building up those relationships and improving yourself, like Chelsea talked about, can go a long ways as you develop your career. Sandra, you know, from your standpoint, you've been in the Minneapolis sports industry quite a bit, and built some pretty impactful relationships that has helped you get to where you are now. How important are relationships to what we do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I think relationships are super important. And I laugh now because I remember everyone says network and get out there. And as a college student, as a young, you're just like, no, like that's not it. But it's, you know, in some ways it can also be about, you know, who you know and the connections that they also have. You never know what one conversation can lead into, what one place that you were at that you met another person in the industry that you're looking to get into. So it is a little bit about, you know, making sure that you're staying connected, being visible, you know, and one thing I remember is you want to be memorable, in a good way, right? Like, even if you didn't get that conversation or didn't get that interview, it could be a question that you asked, or, you know, the sports scene, especially within the local Twin Cities area that has a ton of professional sports teams. It's a small industry, and we're all pretty connected and provide great resources and great connections. And I would say that extends outside of, you know, whatever state and team that you're looking to get into. It's a small industry, even though there's huge and big platforms. So relationships are huge, and you always want to be mindful of that, regardless of the level that if you're entry level, or if you're a manager, director, VP, those relationships always stay with you. So no matter, you know, where you're starting out, whether it's early in your career or further along, continue to be mindful about the relationships and the connections that you make.
Sandra, I'm going to follow up on something that you said, because I remember being in college, either thinking, how do I network? Who wants to network with me? Or yeah, what's the point? I'm here to do a job, and I want to accomplish this job well. For you, what was the turning point in building those relationships? Is it something that just happens over time because you build that trust that Chelsea was talking about, or is there a concerted effort in which you can go about in doing that?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. I think, people that are always eager for me, that are eager to learn, and just be interested in new things excites me. I think as you are connecting with people and building those relationships, being mindful of the time that they have and or specific to sports, right? The season that they're in. I think a lot of professionals, we want to connect with people we know where we've started, but if we're kicking off opening day, that may not be always the best time to maybe reach out and try to be able to shadow somebody or connect with them. But continue to stay persistent, but also be mindful of the time and the value that individuals have within that. Come prepared if you have questions, what you're looking to get out of it. So I would say that's some of the big things to be mindful of.
Yeah, one of the other things, like you said it well, be mindful of their time. I get reached out for one-on-ones, like Sadie said that she's done this year to much benefit. And the ones that go the best are people that just ask good questions and they never ask for a job in it. But I remember who they are, and next time I have an opening, I'm looking them up. And I can think of one person in particular that I would love to hire, just because we had a great one-on-one. Never asked me for a job, but it was a great conversation. Sandra, we're in this panel is all women, very strong, powerful women that I get the pleasure of interviewing. For the females who are viewing this panel, tell us about the perspective of women in the workforce or even the sports industry, and just some advice around that topic.
Yeah, no, it's a super exciting time, and kudos to all the people that are on this panel and are watching. Women in sports, super powerful, coming off of 50-year anniversary here of Title IX. Women in sports, we do it and we do it well and we get it done. It's a unique time in any industry for women in leadership roles, women in opportunity. To be able to try new things. So, for me, it's always to say consistent, be proud of the gifts and talents that you're able to bring. Knowing that, it definitely, you could have a department that is of opposite sex than you, to be able to continue to be confident, lean on each other. What's nice is there's a lot of different, specifically at the Twins, whether it's a BRG, which are business resource groups, that are forming, that help to cultivate, stay connected, be able to talk through challenges, making sure that you don't feel necessarily like isolated. But being a woman in sports, I take pride in it. I know a lot of everyone probably on this panel definitely takes pride of it. And it's a great opportunity and a place that we also belong.
Awesome. Well, thank you to all you women for participating in this panel, and hopefully helping out some of our attendees not only get an internship, but just start their career. Did I miss any topics or anything that any of you would care to address beyond what our conversation entailed?
I think one thing for me, Drew, is, and hearing some other people talk about hiring, sports is a business, and there's a lot of different departments that you may, for people that are on here, may not be familiar with. There's accounting, there's IT, there's finance, marketing. So it's not always, I want to be the general manager or, in the baseball scene. So to think about that and get exposed to, different parts of the business. While it's sports, there's a lot of different things behind the scenes that help to make it run.
Tremendous. Yeah. And like Madeline was saying, these are small organizations. You can get your hands on quite a bit, and you do it respectfully. You can create the internship the way you would like it to be done. For example, for our broadcast internship, I work with our producer, Marchinowski, to try and create a great experience. And we treat it in 3 different waves. One, there's no bad questions. Ideally, we're training you to kind of figure out what we've been doing for the last 16 years, get you up to speed. The second phase is, with all due respect, there's bad questions. If we're still in phase 1 and phase 2, then either we haven't helped you or you're not putting in the effort to grow. And ultimately, that second phase is you kind of realize what we're doing and you're contributing on a daily basis. That third phase is what we called earned opportunity. And we have 2 great interns this year who have achieved that third phase. It doesn't always happen. But basically, we come to you and say, hey, what do you want to do for this last third phase? How can we put you in a position to succeed after the internship? So basically, that's how we treat it in the broadcast department. I feel like you would see similar treatments across the organization as well. With that being said, let's take some questions. The first one here is how flexible are their positions with scheduling? I don't come back from Minnesota for school until late April. Sandra, why don't you take this one? I know for me, this doesn't really apply to my internship because we can be flexible with that as we start the season. A lot of the other internships start in January. How much of an impact would that be on a community department?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and check out the internship applications that are available. They'll have the different start dates on there. There are some that start in January and roll on through, as it gears up to opening day, but then there are some that could be potentially game specific or just in the summer. I think what's unique about baseball is it definitely is a long season and overlaps within the school year. Particularly when in the community department that I was in, we had interns. And I think actually when I started as an intern, I was still a senior in college. So it's all about, making sure that you're managing your schedule. It is a job, but also school is also a job and a priority. And I think I'd say we all want to make sure that that education piece definitely comes first, but it's up to the candidate and the individual that is applying. And so if you're able to make it work within your schedule to be able to balance both an internship and schoolwork, great. If you, however that looks like, it pertains back, but being mindful of what the internship opportunity is asking for, and then also within maybe the timeline in the schedule that you're looking to apply for.
Good answer. So proving that you can do the job even when you are showing up late. And a lot of that comes back to Sadie talking about the research that she did ahead of time. Emily, the next two are for you. How can I possibly shout out for a baseball analyst or intern with the baseball operations department for the Twins or other MLB organization without really any prior experience or knowledge? And to be honest with you, we get this question quite a bit. I'm going to advocate for someone for the baseball ops crew to be on the next panel for next year. But go ahead, Emily. You get this question a lot.
Yes. So we're hoping to have somebody from baseball on the call this year. It just didn't happen to work out. But any sort of opportunity when it comes to job shadowing, informational interviews, things of that nature, always good to just put your name out there, reach out to people through LinkedIn is huge. Reaching out directly to HR is also helpful at times. Like I put the HR support email in the chat. A lot of times, especially during this time of year when we are actively hiring students, we are very open to those types of things. Again, like we mentioned before with schedules, maybe in the middle of a homestand, maybe not the best time to reach out right away, just being mindful of people's schedules. But the worst response that you could ever get is no. So there's no harm in reaching out to people. And most often, especially in the sports industry, we're excited about our jobs and we want to talk to people about it. So we're passionate about educating students and moving them forward. So always good to reach out.
All right, next question for you, Emily. When will phone interviews begin?
So we do a little bit of a different take on phone interviews. So what I'm assuming what your interpretation of a phone interview is actually our video interview stage. So we have a system that we work through for pre-recorded interviews that are on a specific time. We are keeping our applications open until around Halloween. So, but during that time, we will be actively moving people forward into the next stage of the video interview. So we're still waiting on a few internships to finalize those questions for that stage of the process. But anytime between now and probably middle of October is when you could expect to be granted a pre-recorded video interview if you pass the resume screening.
Madeline, this next one's for you. Do you accept non-traditional interns, or I guess maybe people looking for a career change and want to use an internship as a way into that career change?
Yeah, definitely. I think what's important to note is you don't necessarily have to come from sports in order to stay in sports. So while that's great, that's such a equal parallel to transfer over from, like I went from the Twins to the Royals or the Royals to the Yankees. It's really the skills that are transferable. So just as long as you're able to have those skills and execute that while you apply for things, and again, be able to speak to it with examples, kind of like we were talking about earlier, from your work experience, definitely you're able to do that. Obviously, there might be a little bit of a learning curve, depending on if you are new to the sports industry and just not familiar with either the hours or the baseball schedule, or even if you're going from, say, football to baseball, the number of games played during a season are a lot different. So obviously there's going to be a little bit of, or a lot of learning involved. But yes, as long as you have those skills, you're definitely able to make a transition, definitely not excluding anyone who's outside of sports currently.
I completely agree. Even just looking from our own internship in the broadcast side, every year's different challenges, and that's one of the beauties of working in sports. And we don't always look at interns as just like greatest skill set, but if you can meet some of those challenges and you're equipped to do so, we might take a longer look at you because of that. So that should not dissuade you from applying at all. Sadie, this next one is for you, and was kind of talked about it already. Sandra did with schooling, but tell us about, because you are still, tell us about doing the school as well as doing the internship. How did you balance it?
Yeah, so I'm currently a senior at the Carlson School of Management over at the University of Minnesota. When I started in the spring, I was still in my junior year. And it is possible to do school and do the internship. I will say it's difficult. Like I won't sugarcoat it. It's hard at times. It's a lot of hours, and you really have to prioritize both things and maybe sacrifice other parts of your life, those social aspects, and different things. But if this is what you want to do, it is possible if you put that effort forward. Something that I did, and perhaps something that students could be able to do now as well. I was enrolling and registering for classes for the spring semester right around this time last year. And I knew that I really wanted to do this internship. I was gung ho about it. This was it for me. Like, this is my dream internship. So I actually registered for all online asynchronous courses for the spring. That allowed me to be here during the day. I could complete all my internship duties, and then I would go home at night and do all my classes. That was just work for me and my schedule. I was incredibly fortunate to be able to do that, and that it aligned with my schedule. But even now, I know that there's another question kind of balancing, now that we're back in school. I'm in person this semester as I finish it out. My department has been incredibly flexible and so supportive of that as well. I have all my classes bunched up in the morning, so I'm over on campus in the morning, and then I come over in the afternoons and evenings to do my work here. So definitely very supportive of that. Like Sandra said, there's such an importance on the education piece as well, but you just have to be willing to work for it and prioritize those two things in your life.
I'm going to try, and there's a couple questions about where I find internship, what internships do you offer, and can you apply for more than one internship? Basically, we offer a ton of internships for a ton of different departments. You can go to twinsbaseball.com/job opportunities, where you can find the different internships there and apply for them, as we are still very early in the application process. Can you apply for multiple ones? Absolutely. I can think of a couple of individuals who were interviewed by different departments within the organization. They both did well in the interview process. They met for coffee and they fought over who got to hire them. So no problem at all. I think you can, Emily, you can correct me. I think you can check up to 3 internships that you're interested in through that website. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can apply for virtually as many as you are interested in. I will say, like, a lot of internships overlap too. So it's always good to kind of, if you're really interested in marketing has a bunch of different internship opportunities. So it's always good to connect with people from all different levels of the department too.
One other clarification from you, Emily, a lot of questions about the housing stimulus. Is it only offered to out-of-state individuals, or you take Twins territory, which can be up to 5 states, and even pretty far up north? Would you take in-state candidates and help them with that housing stimulus as well?
I believe so. I would have to double check. The housing stimulus is varied based upon distance. So for individuals traveling from like the East Coast or the West Coast would probably receive a different number than somebody from a couple hours away here in the Midwest. But regardless, we do offer that, and it's a learning curve for us with this being the first year that we're doing it. So we would definitely likely still offer something if you are relocating to the Twin Cities area. Just how much of a amount of money that you would receive could vary just based upon where you are relocating from.
Chelsea Valzone, I got two questions here about day in the life as a Twins intern, a twintern, as some people call them around here. Give us an example of what a day looks like amongst your team.
Oh man, okay, amongst my team, okay. It's a lot of work. I won't sugarcoat it by any means. So our community engagement department has a couple of different internships. Each of them have a little bit of a different focus, but we're big believers that the department as a whole is better if we utilize everybody together. So it's important to be cross-trained, which we take care of that for sure. But you know, our life is busy. We are working youth baseball and softball events around Twins territory. We have an awesome clinic program where we put on free baseball and softball clinics around the 5-state region every weekend. So interns might be at that. Interns might be at a nonprofit event, helping with all the logistical things that we talked about. It's important to explain how you can do these things, help with check-in, mail merge, print spreadsheets, set up an event, you know, those very practical skills. And then we have 81 Twins games too that we program. So we invite a lot of different groups out to Twins games for our pregame ceremonies. You know, we host people to throw first pitches, check presentations, be honored on the field for a million different reasons. So we're always playing host to those groups. So it's important to be a people person, hospitable, engage in small talk, represent the ball club well, represent Minnesota well, and things like that. So I wouldn't say there's any typical day. And I will say that question is kind of hard to answer, but it does help you get a clear picture. Well, clear as mud, picture of the things that we do.
It is, you know, because from our baseball team, you're working nights and weekends. So it is about, 40 hours a week. The Twins pay $17 an hour for their internship. So you do get taken care of from a compensation standpoint. Madeline, a couple of questions here on, do you prefer a CV or traditional resume? And then I'm going to add to that, how do you feel about cover letters in 2022? And then a third question that you can answer as well while you're doing it, master's degrees. What positions would a master's degree be useful for?
Sure. And that's funny that you bring that up, because I was answering Jared's question about master's degrees in the chat. So maybe that's what we're going off of. I personally did get a master's degree. I don't even think I said this before. I went to University of St. Thomas. That's why I was in Minnesota. Anyway, I got my bachelor's from UST, graduated. Yes, I did end up getting my master's, the MSHRD, Master's of Human Resources Development from Villanova. I did it online, so don't rule out anything just because it's not at a physical location. You can still get a great education online. Anyway, I think it depends what you're looking to go into. If you're in social media, I don't think it's maybe necessary to get a master's degree, but on the flip side, I think there are other certificates that you could use to your advantage. So not everything is necessarily parallel in that sense, or comparable. It's not apples to apples. I think it depends on department or field or whatever you're looking at. For cover letters, I don't know. I'm conflicted. I mean, almost every company requires them. I don't love them necessarily as someone who's applying and has to write one. With that being said, I do think it could be a creative way to set yourself apart if it is required. I think, being complimentary towards resumes, I think it gives a fuller picture about who you are or your writing skills or how you come across on a page. Do we need them in 2022? Probably not, but get that out of your head because people are still going to ask for them. So use it to your advantage to either make it a fuller extension of your personality or showcase yourself a little bit more, knowing that if someone submits a cover letter because they're required and probably don't care about it, if someone's comparing the two and reads yours versus theirs, then it's just one extra thing to set you apart. I will say for those who are maybe more in the social or creative fields who don't necessarily need cover letters, just make sure that your portfolios are definitely up to date, easily accessible. I've hired for jobs where they're lock protected and you need a password, but no one's providing their password so that you can see their portfolio. Just set yourself up appropriately so that way it's not so difficult for someone who wants to hire you to even be able to access the things that you need. I think I answered all the questions. I think there were 3
You
of them.
did.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really good advice. Even on the resumes, a lot of times when I get my resumes, I read the bottom first before I get to the top. And sometimes that personality really comes through on the bottom or the miscellaneous elements in the bottom.
Yeah.
One other question for you, Melon. In 2022, are we resumes, should they still be 1 page? Should they 2 pages? I see a lot with clip art on them and different colors.
Sure. A couple things about resumes, and I'll kind of tie it into teamwork because I know Twins use teamwork. Most companies in sports, regardless of outside of baseball, just a lot of sports teams use it. So a couple things for your resumes. Yes, resumes are here to stay and probably for quite some time. Please don't use clip art. I cringe a little bit at that. Please do not include your a photo of yourself. One, not necessary, and second, you don't want someone to judge or presume anything about you just because you have a picture of yourself on there. Yes, please keep it to 1 page unless you have been working for 60 to 70 years and own a company and do all these wonderful, amazing things and have this really robust career. It really should not be more than a page. So keep that in mind and kind of use it as a challenge for yourself to best present yourself in kind of a clean format in 1 page and see what you come up with. But yes, just a couple of things to keep in mind. So.
Really good advice. A lot of repetitive questions on here, so I'm going to just answer a couple again. Do interns ever turn into permanent employees? Yeah, we have one on this panel, and I'm going to go to her next, Sadie, who just is wrapping up her internship. You got asked about networking and creating relationships as an intern. I'll just speak from my standpoint. I've seen interns go about it respectfully and build those relationships, and others that don't do stuff on their own. They're kind of a lone wolf, and it kind of turns people off a little bit. How did you go about building your relationships as an intern?
Yeah, so I feel like we're very fortunate here at the Twins, as I kind of briefly mentioned earlier. Everyone is so welcoming and so ready to help you out. So one of the things that I first did is I started small, just within my department. Within the first few weeks, I just asked all of my supervisors and different things within baseball communications to sit down for a lunch. We would chat just about what they have done, what their role was specifically in our department, which not only helped me with my day-to-day position, kind of getting a better idea of what everyone does, but also just overall seeing their journey and seeing what advice they had for me. So that was the first thing. I always personally like to go in and speak with them. Email works great as well. But I just really like that face-to-face connection and chatting with a person. So that's what worked for me. And then as you continue on with the internship, you just start meeting new people, connecting with them. Maybe you work with them on different projects. Maybe you just see them in the hallway. But as many other people on this call has also said, make sure you're being respectful with timing. If you know that there's a huge event in community coming up that week, maybe wait till the week after to reach out. Or if we're starting a homestand, maybe don't contact the baseball communication staff that time. So doing that. And then as far as like intern to intern, I think that is a huge asset as well. Just connecting with the other interns that are available. You see them every single day. And I know Emily sets up a group chat at the start of the season once people start accepting their positions, so you can connect with them before you even get here, before you get started in the role. We had that group chat, and then I know we also made our own just like texting chat. People would see like if they needed roommates, they would connect there. If we wanted to go out, there's a few restaurants around the stadium, we would go out after work and just connect. And something that was really beneficial for me was I started asking them for informational interviews as well. So we would sit down for a half hour and I would show them what I did in my internship. They would show me what they did in their internship. And that has been so valuable, just having those connections. Some have gone on full time with other teams now, and just getting to hear from them about their experiences there and what they're doing. Just really starting to build that network has been great.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me last week, and I thought that was fascinating about learning about a department through another intern. And I think that's beneficial because that conversation is going to be a lot different and maybe more transparent intern to intern than somebody you don't have a relationship at a director level or a manager level. So I thought that was really good advice and something I hadn't heard before. I got 2 questions about what kind of broadcasting opportunities are offered. They're both from anonymous, so it might be the same person. But basically, like I mentioned earlier, we don't treat you as interns or production assistants. You're conducting interviews, whether that be with someone in the organization to promote a community event, promoting tickets, or to doing interviews with the field staff or players to help tell the story of what's going on the field. You might be working with someone in TSS or ticketing services sales team to promote upcoming series. Basically, at the end of the day, you're telling stories, but you're doing that through a lot of different conversations and relationships throughout the organization. Is it on camera? No, it's not. That's kind of what I put in the third bucket is earned opportunity. Ultimately, we're not going to be introducing a new person to our Twins audience on an annual basis. But if you perform at a high level, you like an intern has this year, then you will get some work towards to being on camera or on air if that fits your career goals. Let's see, Matt, I see you're doing a good job answering a lot of these questions. There are a lot of questions that I get or that I see in here is the conflict stuff that Sandra touched on and talked about earlier, and a lot of basically when to bring it up and how does it work. To be honest with you, get into the interview and then have a discussion about it at the end of the interview. Make a good impression during your interview and then talk about it and talk about it in a way of providing a solution. Don't put that on the person hiring you to figure out a solution. Learn about the position as you go along in the interview and then try and create a solution to that conflict as you're doing it. Hopefully by then you've built up enough of rapport that there's an outcome that you both can come to. Any other questions that I've missed? Madeline, you've answered a lot. Should we address any of them that you've answered out loud? You're on mute.
I can take a quick look through and see what I've done. I don't want to overstep on anything that the Twins offer, so I won't answer any of those, obviously. I've never actually done this answered feature before, so I've become quite enthralled with it. Let's see.
Making us feel like slackers. I haven't been doing that. Sorry.
I think
you've been answering them out loud.
Drew, that I kind of look at it and seeing a lot of people, if you're still in school and looking for an internship, a little bit sometimes like you never know what you don't know. Sadie, like she said, she was already thinking about her classes in the springtime. So as you prepare for kind of what's next within your education and what classes you may need, if it works to have an internship align with it, that's super awesome. I would say, we're looking for people, or when I was with the Twins, that are able to be present, specifically probably during the day. It definitely does change depending on on what you're applying for. But making sure that you're able to balance both, don't overcommit yourself just because you're interested in the internship. If it doesn't work out in the year that you're applying for, and it would work better for the next year, definitely take that into consideration. Don't try to overwork yourself and don't get yourself too far ahead. But if you can balance it and able to provide, sometimes we've had interns meet all 40 hours while they're still taking classes. You could work with your supervisor to maybe get close to 30, and then when school is out and it's the summertime, then you can wrap up into 40. It's all about what you're able to provide, and if you can be able to balance between the two.
I will hit upon, and maybe not to a great extent, but I know a lot of people come onto these wanting to get into baseball. Obviously, it's a baseball team. So just a couple of things to know. The way that organizations, specifically baseball clubs, are set up is that you have the business side pretty much, and then the baseball side. Baseball operates a little bit differently. So I saw someone just say something that they were interested in scouting. Well, I, again, cannot speak to great length about this, and every club has a little bit of different opportunities. The most success that I've seen, because those are such relationship-oriented positions, is if you are interested in things like scouting, see what each club has in terms of programs, or even see what Major League Baseball has as well. They have some umpire specific things if you're looking for that, which is actually a very difficult job, and it's a lot of years of training. But if you are into things like scouting, there are certain programs like that as well. So do keep that in mind. I think I've seen the most success of people starting with the minor leagues, because again, they are much smaller than a major league team. So being able to build those really close relationship with that group. Scouts travel, obviously a lot. There are regional scouts, and they travel to a great degree. So you have your amateur scouts, your regional scouts, and then you kind of have your pro scouting. Kind of start from the bottom up, and you grind. It's a lot to build that way and to kind of get your own, I'll say, portfolio, but knowing what stats you have to track and what that looks like. So I don't know what kind of things the Twins might offer in terms of those types of internships, and I'm sure that they have it posted somewhere if they do, but keep in mind that scouting is kind of its own beast, and while it's really respected, very difficult to get into. But that would be my advice, is just kind of start where it's attainable and then kind of build from the ground up. Yeah. I
know MLB had a scouting school at one point in time. I shouldn't even bring it up because I'm not sure if it still exists, but that was a great path for a lot of scouts to get into the industry. I'm going to do one quick comment. You've heard everybody in this panel mention relationships and how important they are to having success, both for your team and as yourself. So just be conscious about always putting your best foot forward, no matter what you're doing, small or big. Putting the best representation forward. Sandra, I'm going to ask you one last question to finish up. These last two came in about what's more important, degree, experience, and then would you hit on experience? What is kind of a commonality between the different sports in the sports industry?
Absolutely. I mean, I think degrees are definitely important. Experience is definitely important, and degrees can look different in all different ways. And Madeline touched on, online education is just as powerful too as well. So as long as you're continuing to learn and find what's best for whatever career path you're looking for, I would say that's what employers are looking for. Different in sports. So I was with the Twins for quite a while in baseball, and now I'm in basketball. Sports is continuing to be a grind. It's continuing to be adaptive. No days are the same. Definitely the different industries, from the audience and the fan base to the amount of players, to just kind of what ramp up to the off season and or in season looks like, are all just different things to take into consideration. But I think somebody, you know, as you think about potentially a career in sports, depending on what your role is, you got to be able to be probably adaptable, strive with forever changing, knowing that there's a team that we're all looking to get that championship and whatever it is, and hope that one day you get there. Hopefully the Twins in futures and beyond get that World Series, which would be super exciting.
Andrew with one late comment, good name. He said, if you have conflicts, you can't commit for a whole year, try the Saints internships. Absolutely. I know Madeline had done that. Sierra Bailey, who's a pretty reputable employee over there, also did a Twins internship and now is full-time over there after the internship. The Saints is a great organization to work in. And just, again, to the same points we were making here, the amount of stuff that you can get your hands on and touch over there is incredible and will only be beneficial to your goals. So thank you for everyone for attending, and thank you to all of our panelists for contributing and providing your time and your knowledge to hopefully help everybody give them the best foot forward in their internship or careers.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you, Andrew, for being our lovely MC. You did a great job. Our panelists did a great job. Just to wrap things up here, just as a reminder, all of our internships are posted. You can apply at twinsbaseball.com/job opportunities. Link is in the chat. If you have any questions following this webinar, please feel free to reach out to HR support at twinsbaseball.com, and we will answer any questions you may have. So with that being said, thank you again to our panelists and to everybody who attended, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.